Hi. I was at a family gathering a couple months back with some members of my extended family, including my cousins, the oldest of which is 15. We were discussing standard things like how high school is exactly when you peak in life, and then he tells me that over half his science class failed their final exam. Obviously this is wild to me because how bad of a teacher do you need to be to have a class where over half of your students don't understand the source material? But then he goes on to say that it was actually only a few students in a group of like 20. The way he initially said it made me think that there were dozens of students mass failing their courses, not a handful of idiot teenagers fucking around in the back of class and getting docked marks for it. So I told him he made it sound significantly more serious than it actually was and made it overblown. So he turns to me and goes, well, what sounds cooler, that over half the class failed or that only a few people did? And I was stunned. I just looked at him and I was like, it doesn't matter what sounds cool. We're just talking about things. Why do you need to sensationalize the topic that much when we're just having a conversation? He then proceeded to go silent and look away. Perhaps he was thinking about what I said, or perhaps he just thought I was stupid. I don't know. But regardless of if he was over-exaggerating or not understanding mathematics, as most kids do, it gave me something to think about. Why was he asking me what sounded cooler to validate telling me something that was incorrect? Why did he think he had to give a sensationalist spin like you see on social media sites broadcast to millions of people to a conversation only existing between us and would never be experienced by another person? The answer, I fear, is that people are starting to equate those as being the same thing. You often hear Twitter described as a public square by its employees. They say they want everyone to be free to say whatever they want and to express yourself in any way that they please. This is horse shit. Twitter is not a public square, it is a privately owned corporation. You don't get to express yourself any way you please, you get to express yourself strictly through the filtered down, reductive medium of short paragraphs that are immediately funneled and sorted into an algorithm that has no regard for you. I'd say this to a Twitter executive's face even before elongated muskrat crashed into it like a hurricane. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of them, they all want you to behave like machines. You're a more reliable consumer that way. It genuinely feels like the world is on fire and billionaires, tech CEOs get to bask in the warmth while the rest of us choke on the smoke. Why don't we have the cool dystopia? Why don't we have killer robots or zombies instead of just AI chatbots jerking us off and advertising tissues to us afterwards? I've been getting more and more conscious of this over the last few years. The only real social media I have under my real name at this point is Instagram, and I made that purely so that my coworkers wouldn't think I'm a complete recluse. But individual solutions to social problems are just that. They're great for you and you only. I'm so much happier that I'm not on Twitter anymore. I'm glad I no longer impulsively open Instagram out of boredom and making sure I'm making the conscious choice to engage with it. But my individual actions for myself don't mean anything if the world I inhabit is still being shoved face first in a direction I'm desperate to turn away from. There's a reason why, despite the huge uproar and hatred for Discord right now and people looking for alternatives like crazy, they aren't going anywhere. They found the perfect equation to satisfy the average person for online communication, and it got them millions and millions of daily users in just 10 years. And don't get it twisted, just because you don't see any ads on the sides doesn't mean they aren't making bank off of you having an account. Context for the 0.05% of you that don't know, Discord is a service that started as a way to host voice chat for gamers that didn't want to use in-game chat, but they've rebranded the last few years to a more general, de facto way that everyone talks online. Odds are, if there's a community with at least 4 people that give a shit about it, there's a Discord server for it. Even if it's not needed. Remember the shit with the ISO emulator a few months ago? Literally none of that would have happened if they didn't have a Discord. What the fuck is up with my trip? Why am I throwing it back so much? Yeah. If I check my retention later and see that's the most replayed part, I'm going to kill somebody. Early last month, they announced that they are going to be enforcing age verification in an effort to protect the kids, because it's always about protecting the fucking kids. Obviously, it makes more sense for every big online service to make every adult deal with a neutered baby mode of the space they once loved until they willingly decide to dox themselves, as opposed to making parents be parents. They say that any data you send to their third-party age verification service would delete your information immediately in most cases. I'm not a fan of the in most cases caveat and would have appreciated if they provided an example scenario for a case where it wouldn't get deleted immediately. And B, if you go through a third party, how are you sure they're deleting it on their end? Because I don't know if you know anything about the company you chose, but they're very notorious for not doing that. Persona has an article talking about their startup posted on Forbes, and the whole thing reads like a fucked up villain's manifesto. They are getting billions in investor funding to keep building up a profile on you. Everything you are is being utilized to build up a very extensive profile of your existence, from what you do online to what you do offline, and all accounts and identities you do it with. This company probably has a novel-length dossier on you, with more information than you could possibly know about yourself. It is being used to keep an eye on everything you do in the real world 24/7. It is being sold while you see none of the profits, And the worst part is that you know a lot of this shit, but you just don't care. This isn't even bringing up that one of Persona's investors is Peter fucking Thiel, who is the chairman of a surveillance company that has been working with ICE for over a decade and has been ramping up the current Trump administration's deportation efforts. Sorry, am I being too woke for you? Fuck off! In response to the backlash of enforcing age verification, Discord tried to encourage people that it's okay. 90% of you won't even need to provide proof of your age because we can determine if you're old enough based on your account activity. Which in their minds probably was meant to be reassuring, but in my mind this tells me, cool, so you're admitting to essentially spying on all your users' private conversations over the last decade. Sweet. Blanket allegedly over that, by the way. I'm not accusing them specifically of selling that data to advertisers or data brokers. However, when you're saying, dude, trust me, to a hot and fast requirement for people to prove that they are of age on platforms they've used for years, when you previously had a data leak of 70,000 people's IDs not even a few months prior, I can understand why people would take an issue with that. And to top it all off, Discord recently switched CEOs and has been dancing around the idea of going public for a while. It'd be silly not to think that this is in an effort to make Discord seem more clean and appealing to venture capitalists. At this point, you may be wondering, okay, so some random company whose whole purpose is to gather data about people and collect it in a database has my ID or face scan sitting in a file somewhere that no one's probably gonna manually check ever. What's the big deal? And to that I say, did you watch the Super Bowl this year?
Pets are family. Every year, 10 million go missing.
One post of a dog's photo in the Ring app starts outdoor cameras looking for a match.
Be a hero in your neighborhood with Search Party. Available to everyone for free right now.
You guys ever just see a piece of media and the first thing that pops into your head is that Ted Kaczynski was right about everything? Except for hating leftists, I fully believe Ted would be an anarcho-socialist in today's climate. This comment explains it best. This is like the commercial they show at the beginning of a dystopian sci-fi film to quickly show people how bad things have gotten. Credit where it's due, they made a good point that the way we search for dogs hasn't really evolved over the last couple decades. You know, except for GPS tags, microchips, neighborhood watch groups, callers with a code to find the owner's info, any of the hundreds of apps designed to help people track them down. You know, nothing's changed in the slightest. And that's why Ring made Search Party, a way to interconnect all the Ring cameras and use machine learning to help you find dogs, because that's definitely their top priority when setting up the infrastructure to build a 3D map of your neighborhood. And look at the commercial. The camera sees some vaguely dog-shaped brown pixels and immediately identifies the name of the dog and alerts the owner. And if the AI can discern that so easily, you know damn well what else it can discern. Before we get to the really bad part about this technology, because yes, it does get worse, it always does, I need you to realize how easily and efficiently this technology can be misused. Imagine someone starts stalking you after you reject their romantic advances. It gets to the point where you get a restraining order against them, and rather than run the risk of breaking the restraining order, they use their technical know-how to simply access the Ring camera feeds and notify them when you pass by one so they can keep watching you. Or you're in an abusive relationship with your tech-literate partner and you manage to escape and stay at a friend's house to recoup. Well, your friend owns a Ring camera, and now they know exactly what house you're staying at. It may sound like I'm being dramatic for effect, but I'm really not. This commercial cemented the knowledge in our heads that Ring cameras are all interconnected and able to communicate with each other. The infrastructure is there. There's a reason there's currently a $10,000 bounty for anyone who finds a way to hack a Ring cam and guarantee it will stop sending shit to Amazon or the cloud or anything. And this isn't even bringing up Ring's partnership with Flock. Flock is a security company having contracts with various law enforcement branches in the States, or even worse, homeowners associations. They have a lot of cameras in a lot of communities across the US right now, each one using machine learning for the purpose of being able to keep track of people and find their identities in the name of public safety, which is not oxymoronic at all. They even acquired a drone company to make flying cameras with the same technology, so it's not even limited to certain municipalities anymore. I am so fucking scared, and all these features have been used to various degrees by various law enforcement agencies, including ICE. If I have to explain why that's a bad thing, I genuinely think your soul is broken. They partnered with Ring in October 2025, and Ring aired that fucking awful commercial a few months later, and within days they had ended the partnership due to the backlash. Keep in mind, Flock's whole pitch about using AI to find people and their identities and how they made a joint decision to part with Ring. With that knowledge, do you really think the entire Search Party thing is just for finding dogs? The very small upside in that entire thing is the fact that people more and more are growing more conscious of the hellscape we're finding ourselves in. And with that, some people have actually started fighting back to some degree. Ring got absolutely trashed online. Lots of people said they were switching security camera services. A competing security camera company called Wise actually made a parody that's really funny. You should watch it. It resulted in them ending their deal with Flock, who had also been getting pushback both from Ring owners and people against their cooperation with immigration officers. Like, I'm not conflating anything. Hundreds of Flock cameras have been destroyed by random people in the communities because they understand that this technology is not being forced force them to everyone purely because they want to keep us safe and to the kindness of their hearts. If a service is free, you are the product. The provider wants their payment and the investors want a payday. And it's the same thing with Discord. They released a statement later clarifying things about the age verification process and why they feel government pressure to do it. They also talk about dropping Persona, delaying the launch until the latter half of the year, and adding different ways to confirm your age that aren't solely based on your ID. But at this point, it feels too little too late. I already canceled my Nenshow subscription and I have no plans on bringing it back. Because at the end of the day, with all the pushback, Discord's gonna survive this. And they have set the precedent now that they feel fine with asking for your personally identifying information whenever they please. Because you as a person, your identity, your shopping habits, your physical location, your browser history, your time with friends, your time alone, your time at work, your time on vacation, your time doing anything anywhere, that can all be data points for these companies, for them to use however they want. And it's lucrative. You are a commodity. Everything that makes you uniquely human can be easily broken down into ones and zeros and sold for a profit. The enshittification of everything has just sped up exponentially this year. We are the frog sitting in the cold water while it heats up, and we've barely moved an inch despite the water being almost at boiling point. I know it's easy to fall into the trap of, well, this is just how things are now, but they really don't have to be. There's ways to keep your privacy intact and your identity your own, and if it seems like they're disappearing, then you have to fight to keep them. I have a browser extension called Ad Nauseam, and if you've been agreeing with me throughout this video, you should have it too. I won't link it in the description to be safe because Google's banned it completely from all their shit, and when I explain what the extension is, you'll know why. It's like your run-of-the-mill ad blocker, but instead of just blocking ads, it also clicks on them. Every single one. And why does it do that? For a lot of reasons, but the main reasons I love it is A, it kind of obfuscates what ads you do engage with versus what you don't, thus making the data useless, and B, you're wasting advertisers' money at an alarming rate. Some advertisers have a pay-per-click model, which essentially means that companies advertising on a site get charged every time a user engages with an ad. So of course, if you have an extension clicking shit automatically for every single ad on every single webpage that you load, you are just burning the company's advertising budget while they get nothing in return. How much money is that? Well, I've had the extension on my browser for a couple months now, and according to Ad Nauseam's probably inaccurate, but probably not far off estimation, I have blocked over $5,000 worth of advertising. $5,000. Advertisers have spent a total of $5 grand on my ass, despite me never seeing or engaging with an ad from them. I have never felt more dignified in being so useless. So where are we at now? The world is owned by people who want to reduce your soul into a husk of itself, extracting its essence and ripping it apart so it fits into an algorithm that's so carefully designed to keep you engaging with their slop content, despite knowing you don't like it, and the only people benefiting is the site itself and their shareholders. You know you're wasting your time. You know it's killing your brain, and you can't stop doing it. That's not even me saying you're wrong for it. The entire business model of the public companies that Discord is trying to join the ranks of is to get as much money from advertisers as possible to appease the shareholders. Psychological and mental health effects on the users be damned. It doesn't matter what the service does to them as long as they keep using it, and if they can get you to willingly hand over your personal identifying information to add to the pile of content they've extracted from your soul, it's all the more valuable to them. I truly think we need a social shift backwards to improve the internet. One that doesn't reward sensationalized or straight up false headlines with fake numbers in an ecosystem that's designed to disregard your humanity and make us hate each other, all while scraping every bit of information about our personal lives we share in order to win some personalized advertising capitalist killbot arms race. But at the same time, this is where we live now. You know, if the internet vanished tomorrow, I'd lose touch with so many people in my life. I would probably lose my job. We'd all lose access to the infinite knowledge base where you can learn pretty much anything without having to go to a library and hoping they have a book on your specific thing. Not to mention so many unique voices that would be silenced and never get the chance to shine in another medium with more bars to entry like TV or radio. This isn't the internet I want, but I don't think the right answer is to get rid of it completely. It's going to take a lot of societal change, and it's going to take a massive shift away from the power structures that are currently in place. And the best ways to do that? I got a couple that come to mind. Number 1, Bluesky. Some people think that Bluesky is a failed Twitter clone, which is wrong. Bluesky is essentially a front end for something called the AT protocol or the AT protocol. I don't know. By default, Bluesky gives you a domain from them, but if you own a website or domain yourself, you can just make that your domain on Bluesky instead. Then if another website is built using the AT protocol and you go to it using your domain, all yours and everyone else's posts are there too. Whatever you post on Bluesky doesn't become property of it. And that's by design. Also, at the moment, there's no advertising and there's no central algorithm. When you first make an account, follow some people, and then go back to your feed, you just see everything from people you're following in chronological order. Remember when your Twitter feed was like that? Crazy, I know. I still believe that once you post something online, it's no longer yours. It's always going to run the risk of getting taken by others or used in training data and blah, blah, blah. You know what the fuck I mean. I've been talking about it forever. But the way that @Proto, and by extension Bluesky, is modeled, it kind of helps give a little bit of that feeling of ownership back to you. It's not perfect, and I'm still waiting to see how the system goes in the long term, but right now it feels like a step in the right direction. Next, Haven. Their Kickstarter says it all better than I can, but TLDR, it's a website currently in development trying to get initial funding with the goal of having pretty much everything people want out of a social media site right now. Every image you upload is automatically ran through a filter that will poison any AI that may scrape it. They're free speech in the non-algo speak anti-censorship sense and not the why can't I say the N-word sense. It's very focused on artists especially, including not safe for work or pornographic art that they say will be allowed, going as far as to say that if it means less advertisers, then they would rather go bankrupt than go public. My man is standing on motherfucking business. You can also find the creator's PhD thesis, which not only encapsulates pretty much everything I said in this video, but also offers possible solutions and the steps to get there, websites like Haven included. From everything I've read and listened to from this person, I think he has a chance of making something invaluable in this day and age. Also, if this video blows up and gets seen by the creator of Haven, hey, what's up? How much would you pay me to continue shilling your Kickstarter? I'm open. And lastly, Proton. Proton is basically Google, except not cancer. They have basically everything I use Gmail and Outlook for. They got email and calendars, a way to store files. They added the ability to edit documents and spreadsheets recently. They also got a password manager and a VPN built in as well. Essentially everything I use Google for and then some. The main difference though is that despite the fact that the info is technically in the cloud and in Proton's possession, they have no idea what it is, and they have no way of finding out. Everything you do on Proton, every email, password, photo, whatever, is zero access encrypted. Encryption is a very important thing to have in the time we're living in, and I want to try my hand at giving a proper example. A large series of random mathematics so infinitely complex it would take a computer until the heat death of the universe to crack it, and it happened automatically to everything you ever sent to anyone. I think that's pretty fucking cool. And if that sounds terrifying to you and like you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, but don't worry, because with Proton, you don't have to look at or understand any of that shit. In a 2014 TED Talk, the founder of Proton made the great point that 99% of people simply are not nerdy and tech literate enough to go to alternatives to actually care about privacy because they can be annoying as shit to get a grasp on. Not speaking from experience, I am very smart. So because of that, they use a combination of fantastic technology and intuitive design to cause the least amount of friction for normal people wanting to de-Google or in-look. Like Outlook, but it's the I don't know if that works. There's a reason I haven't brought up Discord alternatives like Matrix in this video because it scares me. Stone also looks really promising. It's definitely the closest functionally to Discord, but so far, literally none of my friends have pulled the trigger and committed to moving over there because I don't know, why would they? Discord works well enough. It's a lot of work to get used to a new system, you know? That TED Talk also brings up another fantastic point, which is that 99% of people my age and lower have probably grown up with the internet their entire conscious existence. My dad got internet for him in my mom's apartment the same year I was born. One of the earliest photos of my childhood is me as a toddler next to my dad using separate computers. If you've ever wondered why I'm like this, you know, at the time it was fine. We were very much still entrenched in Web 1.0 where people just made their own websites that you could discover, look at, enjoy, and then leave and go about your day. Because that's all the shit was for. You got on sometimes to send some emails, pay the bills, and then go fuck off and touch grass or whatever you did back then. But as I started growing up, the computer became a lot more prominent in my life. In elementary school, hanging with friends generally meant walking around the town, climbing trees, maybe playing a couple games on the PS2, you know, that sort of thing. Near the end of that though, and in the beginnings of high school, hanging with friends started meaning things like watching YouTube, playing Flash games, or finding shock sites and seeing things you can never unsee. And by the time I was in college, we didn't need to be in person to do any of those things. If we couldn't meet up physically, we would just talk online, sharing our computer screens, doing games together online instead of on the couch. Keep in mind, I'm not making any moral or quality judgments on any of these activities. Personally, I enjoy living in a time where being able to talk with friends and play games is possible without needing to take a transit somewhere. I love being able to check in with my friends quickly, see how the people I care about are doing, even if I can't book a flight or catch a train to do so. However, it has come with the side effect of a lot of platforms becoming too eager to be the medium we do this on. Having a physical barrier sucks and makes friendships hard to retain sometimes, and the internet helps with it a lot, but within it is a digital barrier that takes stuff of its own. A lot of platforms do certain things or behave in certain ways to make them seem more enticing to engage with. And consequently, it affects the way that you engage with anything at all. I've watched these sorts of practices and companies to implement them crop up over time from a very young age, and I'm almost 30. And if I'm this deeply online and entrenched in internet culture in a way that contrasts pretty heavily with my work life and my family life, I imagine the contrast for preteens and teenagers in 2026 is simply non-existent. People who are entering adulthood nowadays have grown up with the internet just being there from the start. It's existed in their life just as any other essential thing has, like water, the sun, Sonic Advance 3 for the Game Boy Advance. But it's exactly that makes me worried, because it's like, you don't have water trying to work out how to make you drink more water. You don't have the sun trying to burn an identifying marker onto you. And Tails would never rat out Sonic's birthday to Eggman for money. He only wants to help. The internet, and specifically big tech oligarchs, have been putting in effort to make your memories less private and to make your life less your own. We've been seeing this slow enshittification where we've been encouraged to live on the internet more often at the behest of public companies that don't support our interests. But today's youth, that's what they've been raised inside of. That's why my cousin was trying to over-sensationalize the story at the beginning. He was trying to keep his retention rate up. He already knows he's being watched constantly. What else is he supposed to do but feed himself to the machine? I'm being a bit hyperbolic now, but my point is this. Much like Proton's co-founder over a decade ago, I fear we're getting to a point where the inherent right to a private life is being corroded away, not just from us trying to keep it, but from young people who didn't know they could have it in the first place. Bluesky, Haven, and Proton are all just small tidebreakers against a tidal wave that's been built up over 2 generations. The wave has always been growing, but it's picking up at an exponential rate, and so many people on the beach don't even know how dangerous a tidal wave is because they've never seen one. At this point, the best thing to do is just evacuate the beach. We tried to make it good, we made do with what we had, but things need to change. If that means finding another beach where the weather is nicer and you're less likely to get burned, or just a different kind of tourist attraction entirely, you need to move before you're swept away. So get your friends together, work out an evac plan, and regroup somewhere before the tide reaches the shore. You can go back to the beach later if the coast is clear, but if you see another tide on the horizon, keep looking for somewhere else to stop, lest you get washed away.
Profit isn't value. Value is value. Don't let them convince you they're the same thing.